gobble goo and gobble gobble giggle. I wish turkey only cost a nickel. I love turkey on Thanksgiving. You never heard that?
Welcome to my existential crisis.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanksgive me.
My name is Madison Epley.
And I'm Hailey Guthrie. And this is My Existential Crisis, the podcast where we talk about all the stuff that we don't understand.
Yes, but we don't really understand anything. That's just kind of our lives. Okay, you need to tell me what the hell happened on Sunday, if you're okay with talking about it. Was it Sunday or Saturday?
Oh! Sunday.
Yeah,
we went to...
What a day.
Oh my god. It was a mess. We went to see, Hadestown.
And you said you didn't like it?
No. It was fine.
Why?
I don't know. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to.
Really? That's so disappointing.
I was disappointed.
I had really high hopes.
I mean,
Sorry.
it was I'm a Hadestown purist. So
What Oh, like the original cast?
Yeah, the original live album I think is so much better than what ended up going to Broadway. They changed.
Oh, did they?
They changed so much, Madison. They changed
I
almost
didn't know that.
everything. And it was all of my favorite stuff too. It was all of my favorite parts and songs, my favorite lyrics, they cut a bunch of stuff I really liked. It just so I was disappointed in that from the beginning. But I had high hopes. And it was better than Frozen, which we saw last month, but it's still I was disappointed.
Sorry, Guff Puff.
And then we had gone to lunch before the show at this restaurant called The Yard, and it wasn't very good. I got chicken and waffle sliders, and the waffles were dry, and the home fries weren't good.
So disappointing.
And it was just very disappointing.
For comfort food to be disappointing,
Yeah.
you know it's bad.
The chicken tenders were good.
It's really hard to mess up comfort food.
And then my wallet, I lost my wallet, and we went over to the parking garage to drop off my box of food that I had left over. And we're standing there, and I was patting myself down, and I was like, I'll have my wallet. So then my friend Nick ran back to the yard, and it wasn't there. So then I'm entering panic mode, and I'm freaking out, and I was like, well, Nick, did you look on the ground everywhere we went? And he was like, do you think I'm not thorough? And I was like,
do you
no,
think
I would
I'm
never
not
say that about
thorough?
you. And the restaurant was like, well, we're super busy right now, so we can't really help you.
Oh, fuck.
And,
That's kind of shitty.
They were like, we'll check the cameras later if you guys come back later. And I was like, okay.
That's
so
really
then we went to the show. Yeah. We went to the show. I froze my credit card, because all my stuff was in my wallet.
Yeah.
So I froze my credit card, but I had to call the engagement center of my bank to freeze my debit card. And that was a mess, because it was Sunday. So it took forever to get through to anyone. I didn't know if I was going to get through to anyone, and I was, panicking. I was like, they're going to drain my debit card before I get the chance to do anything about it. But thankfully, I got in, and I froze my card, and nothing happened. But I was just, so stressed. Then we went back to the yard after the show, and they were like, yeah, it's not here. We never found it.
Cool.
And I was like,
Awesome.
okay.
Love that.
And, yeah, it was just a mess of a day. So I lost my wallet in Pittsburgh, and my family and my boyfriend were kind of just like, well, it's gone. Someone snatched it, and I was like, I'm aware. So I ordered new cards, and I have to get a new license.
That sucks so bad.
It's just, it got taken care of, and it's mostly fine. It's not ideal, but it's just not ideal.
Yeah.
It is not what I wanted to be dealing with.
Well, I'm sorry, Guff Puff.
It's okay.
That really sucks.
It'll be okay.
Yeah. I'm making a cake tonight. It's going to be my grandpa's birthday. So I'm going to bring him a cake on Thanksgiving. It's banana cake with peanut butter frosting, which...
Ew.
Okay, you can't say ew. You cannot say
gross.
Ew.
It sounds
You
gross.
can't
Sorry.
even eat
Sorry,
peanut
Grandpa.
butter, so you have absolutely no room to speak.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, Grandpa.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
Leave my grandpa alone.
I've never met him.
Yeah, well, he's a lovely man.
I'm sure he is.
He's very kind.
He's related to you.
Yes.
Get it? It's me calling you lovely.
Yes, I am lovely. Thank you for noticing.
You are. You're... Like, I don't tell you all the time how much I care about you and love you.
Yeah. But Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yeah.
Do you have any...
Oh, Madison,
what
did we get? What did we get? What did we get?
What did we get?
What did we get?
What
did Rachel get for us?
What do you mean?
Oh my gosh.
What did Rachel get?
Taylor Swift.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna go see Taylor Swift!
It's like there's no way she forgot.
I did forget. I told you it's that memory loss. I gotta get that fixed.
Listen,
it's so
did
bad.
I get to tell you? I don't think I told you how bad it was. It was horrid trying to get tickets for that damn show.
Yeah, I mean, it being investigated.
Awful.
Yep. It was.
Yeah, it was like, I got in before Rachel did. Rachel sat in the queue for I don't know how long, hours, and I got in before she did, but no matter what section of tickets I clicked on, I couldn't get anything. I couldn't buy anything. It was like, just error, and that happened, I swear to God, like 11 times. 12 times. It was ridiculous. And then they were like, you've clicked on too many tickets, so we're kicking you out and putting you back in the queue. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
That is fucked.
So that's what happened.
Damn.
I was like, we're not getting tickets. There's no way in hell we're getting
so
tickets.
Upsetting. Well, we did.
But we did.
We did get tickets.
We did. I'm so excited. I
cannot wait.
Anyway.
But yes.
Let's get into it.
It's Thanksgiving. I wanted to go first because mine is more of a downer, so I figured we could you could lift the spirits up with yours, whatever it may be.
Spirits.
I wanted to do a Thanksgiving themed one since it is Thanksgiving. So I was trying to find something on Thanksgiving, and they were all not so great. And I had a really hard time researching this one too.
I didn't do that. I didn't know we were on theme here.
Well, we didn't have to be. I just figured I'd sprinkle some Thanksgiving.
No, I look like an a-hole because I didn't pick anything for Thanksgiving.
Well,
no, it's fine.
There wasn't very many, so it was probably for the best. But yeah, it was really short, and then I made a lot of notes out of it because I didn't have many sources, so whenever I found anything, I just kind of like ran with it. But we'll just dive right in. This is the story of the Blount family briefcase bombing. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you about it, so buckle in. On November 28th, 1985, it was Thanksgiving night in the Hilltop Mobile Home Park in Texas, and several members of the Blount family decided to go to their local convenience store. They wanted to grab some snacks, some ice cream, and some beer after they had their Thanksgiving dinner. Sounds like a great time.
Yeah.
Whenever they got back, they saw a briefcase sitting on their doorstep, and they didn't know who left it. But it's the 80s, so it's not normal to leave briefcases places, but it's not like danger signals are going off in your brain. So they brought it inside. The kids were like super excited. They were trying to, excited to see what was inside of it. But as soon as they unlatched it, the briefcase exploded and it killed 3 of the family members instantly. And the incident remains unsolved to this day. So who was the Blount family and what happened that day? The Blounts came... real quick. My sources, like I said, I didn't have many. MichaelTony.com, which is no longer online, but I found an archived thing of it. The National Registry of Exoneration and Desert News. So the Blounts came to northern Texas. They were trying to find a fresh start. They were having some rough times, so they were just trying to hit the reset button. It was a family of 4, and they traveled from Seattle, Washington in July of 1985 in their family station wagon, just to show how down on their luck they were. Like, their station wagon did not have AC, and it was the middle of the summer in Texas, so it was hot as hell. They just kind of carried anything they could with them and their bare essentials and just left. The family consisted of Joe Blount, he was the father, he was 44 and a mechanic. Angela Blount, she was the daughter, 15 years old, and her brother Robert, who was 13, and Susan Blount, the mother. They rented a trailer at this Hilltop mobile home park in Fort Worth, Texas. Like I said, since they just brought the bare essentials, they slept on the floor. They didn't even have furniture to begin with, and it took them a while to even get any furniture. Mr. Blount, he got a job at a local mechanic shop, and he said, quote, "I finally found a home. I want to work with these guys forever." And his wife recalled that, quote, "That was the most wonderful sound I had ever heard." So, like, they felt like they finally had found their place in this town, and they were finally getting that fresh start they were looking for. That was not the case in a couple months. So, that same year on Thanksgiving, just a couple months later, Joe's brother, Carl, Ray is what they called him, came over with his son, Michael, and they came over for Thanksgiving. They were just trying to reconnect and have a good time. Like I said, they still didn't have enough furniture, so Joe had brought some over from his mechanic shop. Some of them sat on the floor. They carried their plates in their lap, whatever. Ray left to go home around 5 p.m., and then around 9 p.m., Mrs. Blount went down and lay down for a nap in her bedroom in the back. Robert, Angela, Michael, and Joe, so the cousins, the siblings, and the dad, they went to the convenience store. It was about a mile down the road, like I said, grabbing ice cream, snacks, and beer. While they were gone, Mrs. Blount heard a knock at the door, but when she went to the window to see who it was, there wasn't anyone there, so she just went back to bed and went back to nap. She later reported that, quote, "This was the last act of my normal life." When the family returned from the store, they found a black briefcase resting on their front steps. Like I said, the kids were super excited. Angela thought it might have jewels in it or some treasure. Robert thought there might be some cash inside. And their dad knew this, people aren't just going to leave treasure at their door. But he was still curious, so he played along out of curiosity. They gathered around the couch. And then Angela was the one who unlocked it, and as soon as she tripped the latches, the bomb immediately went off. The explosion took milliseconds, and it sent fragments of the briefcase flying 2,000 feet per second, which is roughly twice the size as a bullet from a handgun. And as soon as that blast occurred, it ignited a container of gasoline inside the suitcase, which created a fireball, and it just ripped through the room. A neighbor later reported that it sounded like a cannon shot. And a government explosives expert later testified that it was, quote, "an extremely violent weapon designed to kill human beings, and it worked to perfection." Mrs. Blount actually thought that it was the sound of a jet because they lived near an Air Force base. So it woke her up, obviously, but she just thought it was the blast of the jet. But when she opened the bedroom door, she was immediately hit with a blast of smoke and a wave of heat. And she reported, this is awful. She reported that she could see her husband, Joe's body, laying in front of the TV on fire. It was just that bad. Just instantly, the room was incinerated. And she ran outside through the back to her neighbors asking for help. And she thought that everyone inside was dead. So it was thought that everyone was dead, everyone who was directly involved, but Robert, he did actually survive, even though he was severely injured. His hair was completely burned off, his skin was scorched, and his clothing and slippers melted to his body. He was right next to the blast, next to his sister, so I don't know how he survived it, but he did, and he was actually blown out of the door of the trailer. So the investigation, federal agents immediately didn't have any answers at all. Joe's background came out clean. They said he didn't have any enemies. He was considered more or less harmless. Like I said, they weren't running from anything in Seattle. They just were having a hard time and were trying to get a fresh start. Joe's brother, Ray, did have some history of crime or other things happening, but it was nothing that would have led them to this. And detectives also immediately just turned towards the wife, Mrs. Blount. Obviously, she was the only person to survive, the only person there. So they were trying to find a motive, like insurance policies. And she did admit that she had life insurance policies on her husband and daughter, but it was only $3,000, which didn't even cover the funeral costs to have them buried. So it's not like it was worth it. And especially something of that magnitude. That's just, if you want to do the deed, I wouldn't make a bomb. There's much easier ways to go about killing somebody for money, I imagine. Not that I know, but I can imagine.
I would like to get that on record.
Well, it's on record now. So, like I said, she became the prime suspect just because it made the most sense. And this is just so tragic because she's not only grieving the loss of her family, but she's also worrying every night, like, they're going to take me away.
It's
so awful. It is. I can't even imagine that. That's just, gut-wrenching. And she also later recalled that, quote, Robert, her son who did survive, was the sole purpose for her to move on. The investigation kept going, and the two later moved to Azle, Texas, just trying to deal with the trauma of the bombing and just relying on each other to survive. Less than a month after the attack, how triggering, the pair came home to find a box outside of their front door. They've had nightmares of this day ever since then, and now this is happening. So they thought someone came back to finish the job, and they called the police. It was just fudge that someone from their church had left them, which is just so heartbreaking that something so innocent, like, could be even thought to be something so sinister. It just, broke my heart. So another theory was that detectives thought that the bomb was intended for another trailer and it was placed there by mistake. One of the Blount's neighbors was thought to have been the person who it was intended for. His name was Wayland Tim Tortella, and he was a jeweler.
Hurricane Tortella.
Yep, he was a jeweler, a meth cook and dealer, and an automatic weapon dealer to drug dealers. And he had also been having an affair, which, it's not a crime.
Not good.
Not great.
No,
not good. Not good.
Don't have affairs. Don't have affairs. Don't cheat on people.
It's true. Don't have affairs. That's not very nice. It's the understatement of the year. Cheating is not nice. Don't do it. He did later testify that he thought the bomb was meant for him, and he wrote that, quote, for 14 years, I felt that it was my fault that those 3 people died. There was a possibility that if I wasn't doing what I was doing back then, they would still be alive. And investigators looked into this as a possibility, but they couldn't find any evidence of it. So some other leads. In March of 1986, Douglas Raymond Brown, he was a businessman, a machinery repairman, and just a respected townsmember of Azle. He was arrested for selling an undercover agent 2 explosive devices that were in a form that was not requested by the man. A briefcase. That's, yeah. The bombs were in similar makeup of the ones that killed the Blounts, and firearm. Okay, I heard the bell ringing, and I just wanted to say, somebody noticed that in the last one, and I knew what it was, but I couldn't edit it out. So people just live with the bells.
I live in an area where there are, no joke, 4 churches.
That's okay. Praise be. All right. The bombs were in a similar makeup of the ones that killed the Blounts, and the firearm expert said that when detonated, the bomb would have caused an explosion and then a fire, and other explosives and chemicals were also found in Brown's office. He was being watched for 5 months in relation to a drug investigation where police believed his business was being used to exchange drugs and guns. But despite all of this, Police Chief Richard Wilhelm told the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that Brown was one of the last persons he'd suspect, and that the Tarrant County Sheriff was floored by the coincidence. I don't know what kind of coincidences they're used to seeing, but I don't just have bombs,
No.
And chemicals and stuff in my office. That's not, I wouldn't call that a coincidence.
People don't just make bombs
Also,
for fun.
Also, he has a bomb. You're saying that you couldn't suspect. He has bombs. You caught him with bombs. You caught him selling bombs. And you're saying that you couldn't imagine that he would potentially be someone to do this?
No, couldn't
That's
do
nuts.
it. Wasn't him.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
So this guy was never...
I said, I know that guy. Not him.
Yeah. So he was never charged with the briefcase bombings. And then 2 days after his arrest for the bombs he did sell, he was released on a $10,000 bond. And then that was that. Slap on the wrist.
Incredible.
Cool. Another admitted meth dealer and neighbor of the Blounts, Darren Irvin, was another suspect. There were a lot of meth dealers in
I was
this
just
trailer
thinking
park.
that,
Yeah, there was a lot of troubled people in this area. So he allegedly had a fight with his wife on the day of the bombing. Their house was strewn with bullets and ransacked and trash. So not that it had anything to do with the Blounts, but because he's got bullets and trash and all this stuff at his house on the same day as the bombing, it kind of raised some red flags. Again, nothing came of this. This was in the era of satanic panic, and so another suspect was 15-year-old Mikey Huff, and he was a classmate of Angela's. There were rumors that he was really upset because Angela had turned him down, and his friends claimed that he had a short temper, and he was a known burglar and drug user, and he was said to have worshipped Satan. Yeah, an anonymous tip claimed that Huff bragged about detonating a bomb, and parts of the bomb were actually found in his bedroom by his stepfather. I don't know what kind of 15-year-old is making bombs, but it's not one I want to be associated with. I was probably playing with Barbies at 15. I played with Barbies very late in my life.
That makes sense for you.
I am proud to say that. I love Barbies.
Barbie's great. And I'm not
great.
judging. No judgment. No, I believe that it was that boy. I 100% believe that. Have you seen the kind of crap that guys will do when girls say no?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And if he was already a troubled young lad, what puts it past him?
And he was already working on bombs, apparently. I would not be surprised at all if that was what happened.
Exactly. His father actually claimed that 2 mouse traps were stolen from his kitchen, and that was used in making the bombs that were left at the Blounts. But again, all of this was circumstantial, and there was no definitive proof on it. So they let him go. This investigation went on for 11 years, and Susan and Robert, they moved back to Seattle. They didn't think any justice would be done, but after the 1996 Oklahoma City bombing, all unsolved domestic bombings were reevaluated, and they assembled a task force to open the cases back up.
Good.
This is where Michael Toney enters. Who is Michael Toney? Why do we care about this guy? So Michael Toney grew up in Cottonwood, California. His father left when he was young, and his mother worked in local bars. She would often bring home different men frequently, many of which would beat her and abuse her sons as well. Toney would often go to the shed in the back just to try to escape from everything. And around 9 years old, one of his mother's boyfriends, this is so terrible, one of his mother's boyfriends strapped him to a chair, duct taped his hands down to it, sprayed lighter fluid on his hands, and set them on fire.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He later recalled that the boyfriend would put them out with a towel after a second, but he said it still hurt like hell, which I'm sure it did. But what he would do is he would set it on fire, put it out after a second, and then switch to the other one and do the same. And he would go back and forth, alternating on his hands. And he said that he would recall that he could just like hear the maniacal laughter of this man. And he said it sounded like the devil. He also had a couple other tragedies in his life. One of his really good friends, Annette, was murdered in his hometown, which he said put a tremendous amount of hate in his heart. His trigger warning, his aunt was raped and murdered, which also left him with more hate in his heart. At 15, another separate boyfriend, attacked him with a fishing gaff. Do you know what that is? I didn't. It's no. Like this stick, and it has like a long, sharp curve on the end. It's like if you see a fish hanging up by like it's what you would put the fish's mouth in to like keep. Yeah, it's like a giant hook. He attacked him with this fishing gaff and left him with like a gaping wound in his hip. He left school by the 10th grade, and then he just moved to Texas. Leading a life of crime and misguided anger, Tony would help other convicts scheme their way into special privileges or release. So, for example, he showed one inmate how to fake a suicide attempt by hanging, which got him out of jail. It didn't specify how that got him out of jail, but I'm assuming had him released into like a mental health facility of some kind instead of being imprisoned. So why am I talking about this guy? In 1997, Tony was in jail waiting for a hearing for a separate burglary charge when he and cellmate Charles Jack Ferris started talking about the Blount bombing. Ferris told authorities that Tony admitted to him that he was the one that killed the family from the bombing, and Ferris successfully got released from prison for giving up this information. The story was incredibly convincing, and authorities went to Tony's ex-wife, Kim, to question her. At first, she said that she didn't have any idea what they were talking about. How could this be possible? But after she did some research on the case, she came to the realization at what happened, she said, and she remembered being there. Within months, Ferris recanted his statement of Tony's confession, admitting they faked the story, both of them, to help get Ferris out of jail, just like he had helped other inmates get out of jail. But despite this, Tony was taken to trial for the bombing, and he just didn't ever think he'd be actually convicted for making this story up. So, the trial began in May of 1999, 14 years after the bombing. The Blount family testified. Susan relived her experience and told how she escaped out the back door of the trailer. Robert recalled his sister opening the latches, but that was the last thing he remembered. And he recalled, quote, "There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about that day." Despite their testimony, Kim, Tony's ex-wife, was the most convincing. It was the nail in the coffin, for lack of a better word, for the jury. She testified that Tony, herself, and his friend Chris Meeks went to a propane shop near the Hilltop Mobile Park home. She claimed that Tony took a brown briefcase with him, which she claimed she saw filled with bombs days earlier. He took this brown briefcase out of the truck and left. And I'm emphasizing brown because earlier it was stated to be black, which already this story is conflicting with the truth. She said that Tony returned without the briefcase and the trio went to a nature center. She said Tony shot a beaver with a rifle and she never heard sirens and didn't hear an explosion. Meeks, the friend, testified that they were indeed near the trailer park that night, but his testimony didn't match with Kim's in a lot of different ways.
Right.
He said that they went to the nature center days earlier. He didn't know anything about these bombs in the suitcase that she apparently saw. He failed a polygraph test, and in 2001, he did sign an affidavit recounting his testimony. Another cellmate of Tony, Finis Blankenship, another name, testified that Tony admitted he was paid $5,000 for the murders, and Blankenship said the murders were part of a drug-related business, but the briefcase was left on the wrong doorstep, like police suspected. During this time, Blankenship was facing 2 counts of indecency with a child and multiple habitual charges, so he agreed to testify in exchange for his charges to be dropped. Another jailhouse confession, which should not be taken super seriously. Tony took the stand himself. He claimed he hadn't even heard of the bombing until 1997, years after it had happened, from an inmate named Benny Joe Toll. Toll was a friend of Mikey Huff, who was the suspected 15-year-old, if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, you do. Toll actually took the stand and confirmed this. He said, I was the one who told him, and he didn't seem to know of it prior to me telling him. Tony claimed he had never even been to the mobile home park, and he didn't even know it existed prior to the trial. And Kim and Meeks claimed that Tony drove a truck the night of the bombing, but he said he didn't even buy the truck until December of that year, which was a month after the incident. And despite all of these inconsistencies, 2 jailhouse confesses, the circumstantial evidence, recounted testimonies, Tony was still convicted and sentenced to death. In December of 2008, the Texas Court of Appeals did overturn the conviction after it was found that prosecutors, along with all of the bullshit that happened during the trial, prosecutors withheld 14 pieces of evidence that were key to Tony's defense. And prosecutors decided not to retry the case, and on September 2nd, 2009, Tony was released from prison. However, unfortunately, a month after his release, Tony died from a car accident when his truck veered off the road and threw him from the vehicle. So that's really all I've got for you. I feel so bad that the 1 month that Tony had released from prison, that's what happened. And he was convicted, so I feel conflicted on saying he didn't do it, but it seems pretty unlikely that he did not do this.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I don't know. And it seemed like it was really irritating reading all of this because it seemed like the police just wanted to point fingers so badly. They just kind of went with whatever they could. But yeah, and even if they had done a proper trial, like I don't know. It just pissed me off a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Thanksgiving will be the anniversary of the Blount family bombing. It's still unsolved to this day. As far as I know, the remaining family is still alive. So I'm sure there's not a day that goes by that they don't think of that. But yeah, that's the Blount family briefcase bombing. Happy Thanksgiving.
That's awful. I think it was Mikey Huff.
I'm sorry.
Fully on the Mikey Huff did it train.
I am too, honestly. I think Mikey Huff did it. If he didn't, it was definitely a drug-related thing that it was left at their doorstep by mistake. And that's still just so awful.
I just know the types of things that you see all the time, like the things people will do to women who say no. So
yes.
I have no problem believing that it was him.
Yeah, it's 100% right. But yeah, make me happy, make me laugh.
All right, Madison.
Okay. Yes.
You know how much I love Disney, right?
Yes, I do.
Very, very much. I love Disney so much.
You're not a Disney adult, but
I'm close. No.
You're not.
I'm like the tip of the I'm the tip of the iceberg, I think. Like, I'm the tip of the iceberg. I'm not in the water. I'm not submerged. But I am the tip to mid iceberg, I would say.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
I can get on that.
Disney World, Disneyland have been around for so long. Disney World just celebrated its 50th anniversary last year.
And I've still never been.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Get down there.
I'm pissed.
Figure it out.
I'm poor.
Disneyland is in, like, 70s. It was opened in 1955. So, old places, and you know what they say about old places?
They got ghosties.
They got ghosties. Ah! So here are a couple, since Bob Iger is back, baby, here are a couple of my favorite ghost stories.
I don't know who that is, but I've heard that's in the news lately.
He used to be the CEO of Disney.
Why is that important?
Well, Bob Chapek took over and, like, ran it into the ground a little bit.
Is he the reason why Marvel sucks now?
I don't know if he's the reason Marvel sucks now.
I'm gonna blame him.
But he is
I'm gonna blame it on that guy.
There's
Bob?
so many... He's, like, put in so many issues with the things that he has done. He's the reason we don't have fast passes anymore. He's the reason that the parks aren't clean.
Oh, he's a fucker.
He's the reason for all these, like, issues with the parks. But he's gone and Iger's back. And Iger had it running like a smooth ship for a long time, so here's hoping.
Maybe I'll go now.
But here are some of my favorite Disney ghost stories.
Yay.
First up, we got George, who's the ghost of the Pirates of the Caribbean. I believe this is the one in Disneyland. No, Disney World. It's one of them.
In Florida, right?
Disney World is the one in Florida. Disneyland is the one in California. Either way, George is the ghost of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Legend has it that George was a maintenance worker helping to build Pirates of the Caribbean when he died tragically on the ride.
Oh shit, how?
It depends on who you ask. Some people say he was crushed by a falling beam. Some people say he fell from the fire town scene. There's a scene in the ride where the town's on fire. Some people say he fell
Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
When did that happen in the movie?
It's Madison. The ride came first.
Did it?
Yes.
The
movie is based on the ride.
You are a Disney adult, and I am the complete opposite. I'm a Nick kid. I know nothing about
Disney. The movie is
Disney.
based on the ride.
Really?
So, yes. They didn't even have Jack Sparrow on the ride until, like, 2010s, I think.
Really? That's crazy. Wait, so why did they make that? I'm asking you all these questions now. This is fascinating. Why did they make the Pirates of the Caribbean ride? Like, what was the point of it? Just, like...
It was fun.
They're pirates!
Yeah, it was fun. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. See, you always ask me questions I didn't do any research on.
Sorry, I just do all the research because I go too hard. If I have a question, I'm like, I gotta know the answer. I have to know.
Like, I know everyone's life story in the Blount family.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Yeah, and that's because I'd be curious and I'd be like, I can't just not know. Like, it bothers me. And then it'll, like, bother me until I find it out. Which is why I started this freaking podcast, because I hate not knowing.
But
it pisses me off. Sorry, go on.
Okay. So George, he's a little mischievous. He's a little fun little guy. He just wants respect. The workers say that they have to say good morning and good night, George, every morning and every night when they open and close the ride. If they don't, the ride will experience issues during the day. It's been said that people on the ride will say, like, I don't believe in George, and then the ride will shut down. So yeah, if you, like, just give George your love and your respect.
I will, and I do. I love him from afar.
There's a woman in white. She's dressed in 19th century clothing, and she is seen mostly on Main Street. Her deal is that she apparently guides lost children to the baby care center. So that way they can be reunited with their family and everything. Oh so she's cool.
That's so heartwarming.
Yeah. No one knows, like, how or why she would be there or who she would be. It's one of those instances, I guess, where maybe she was, like, on the land a long, long time ago and her spirit stuck around and now it's Disney World.
I want to be a little kid just so that she can guide me to my parents. I want to meet her.
one I have written down is just The Boy. This is Haunted Mansion in California. A mother allegedly spread the ashes of her young child on the ride, without Disney's permission, obviously.
Yeah.
And allegedly you can hear the boy crying for his mother at the end of the ride from time to time.
That's so
again, this is allegedly. According to Disney, people don't spread ashes on the property.
How would they know? You can't
how
you could just smuggle ashes in? They're ashes.
Like, it became, like, a problem. People have asked, but they have not, as far as they say, no one's actually done it. But there's also a picture of a boy on the Haunted Mansion, I think from the one in Florida, though. It's, like, a really famous, like, ghost Disney picture of this boy in a doom buggy up, like, a few doom buggies up from the person taking the picture, and the person taking the picture was like, there was no one there when I took this picture. So that's creepy.
Okay, so was the Haunted Mansion ride, did that come before the movie too?
That came before the movie too.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I am not.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No, I am not.
What?
It came.
I am so upset. I am so mad at all of this information I am just learning today. I'm happy I'm learning it, but I have so many questions.
Seven Dwarves Mine Train came after Snow White.
That's it.
No, Peter Pan's Flight came after. No,
these are things I didn't even know were rides.
Yeah, no.
I didn't even know that was a ride. Next we got Mr. One Way. He haunts Space Mountain in California. Mr. One Way.
He's interesting. He is seen as two different people. Like, he's been described as two different variations of himself. One variation is a man with red hair and a reddish face. And the other variation is a boy who's dressed in, like, 70s era clothing. Okay. Whether or not he interacts with people in line for Space Mountain depends on who you ask. But he always gets on the ride with someone, like a single rider, and then disappears before the final tunnel. So you'll come out of the final tunnel and he'll be gone. And
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I don't like that.
There's video footage on YouTube.
Actually?
Yeah, supposedly of Mr. One Way getting on the ride. There's also a Disco Debbie who supposedly haunts the Space Mountain as well. She is a cast member who died behind the ride, and she glows in the dark. So
shit.
Honestly, I want to ride with Disco Debbie. I think that'd be cool as hell.
Fuck the white woman. Sorry, that was not respectful. You do great things, white woman. I want Disco Debbie to party with. She sounds like a great time.
Something that all of the stories I've told so far that have in common is that they are all legends.
Okay.
There is no real life anything to verify them.
Proof or anything.
There's no George. There's no record of a George.
Oh.
There's no record of there's no record of the mother who spread the ashes. Like, there's no legitimacy to any of these. But these next ones do have real life parts to them, real life moving parts and legitimacies. First we've got Dolly's Dip, is what it's called. Matterhorn in 1984, a young woman by the name of her nickname was Dolly. Young woman by the nickname of Dolly fell out of her bobsled car on the Matterhorn and was struck by another car and killed.
Shit.
The spot where she was killed became known as Dolly's Dip, and cast members have stated that whenever they are doing their walkthroughs at the end of the night, they always feel like they're watched when they go through that area, and they always...
Don't like that.
The lights in that area never seem to work right. They always seem to be burnt out.
Don't like that either.
I don't believe there have been any sightings of Dolly, none that I could find. But it's pretty much just, like, feelings of unease. Deborah Stone, 1974, she was working a ride called America Sings, which is where the Carousel of Progress used to be, or now is.
I don't know what that is. I imagine it's a carousel.
Yeah. Well, it's a show. And America Sings was a show on rotating stages. So there was a rotating stage.
Okay.
And then there was a stationary wall. So there was a wall that would rotate with the scenes, and then there was a stationary wall.
Okay.
You see where I'm getting.
Yeah, kind of.
Deborah's job was to be the hostess of the show, and then she would stand in an area near those stages.
Okay.
One day during the shows, tragically, she
No.
fell between the walls or something and was unfortunately crushed to death.
Oh my gosh.
Between the rotating show walls and the stationary wall. Lights were then put in to keep that from happening again. But legend has it that cast members working on the ride used to hear someone say, "Be careful," when they got too close to the walls.
Fuck. I don't like that.
I believe people have also seen Debbie around. America Sings doesn't exist anymore, not because of that specifically, but just because after she died, there were a lot of other things implemented, like breakaway walls and, like I said, the safety lights, which, should they have had in the first place? That's, yeah, probably. But I also believe that, like, people have seen her in the area around where America Sings used to be. Yeah, that's Deborah. That's Debbie Stone.
Poor Debbie.
For a long time, people posted a video saying, like, this is the show that Debbie Stone, she was crushed in, and, like, it's just horrible. Like, it's not real, and I just think it's really crappy.
Yeah.
To, like, try to, it's gross. It's gross.
Oh, it's so crappy. That's awful. It is gross.
Quit being gross. I think about her a lot, actually. It always makes me really sad. She was, I believe, 19 years old.
Oh my gosh.
She was very young. She was...
Well, yeah, it's like your summer job, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think about her a lot. It's horrible. It's tragic.
Do you know how Venkat worked at the story of how
Idlewild?
Venkat, yeah, illegally?
He worked there illegally?
Yeah, he
What do
wasn't
you
old
mean?
enough to... So Venkat's actually, like, the youngest of our class. He was...
Okay.
When he was born. I think... Was it October? I don't know. I don't remember. But... I think you have to be 16 years old to operate the rides, and I think he was only 15 years old, but he just said he was 16, and they just believed him. Like, they didn't check anything, or, like, even if he gave his driver's license, they just brushed it under the rug. And for those of you who don't know Venkat, this is exactly something that he would do, and
especially
I would also not trust my children to be taken care of on a ride with this boy operating it.
I operated rides there.
I would trust you to operate a ride. I wouldn't trust Venkat to operate a ride. The boy's a genius, but he's dumb as fuck. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he's so smart, but he is so stupid at the same time. And I don't think he'll ever listen to this, so I have no problem saying that.
Watch him text you and be like, I listened to your podcast. It was really rude of you. And now, finally, for my final Disney ghost story, the man himself, Mr. Walt Disney.
No way. Madison,
did you know that there's an apartment above the firehouse on Main Street at Disneyland?
I have heard about an apartment. I have no idea what that means.
This is where Walt Disney would stay when construction was going on in the park. He would actually stay. Oh,
actually?
Yes. He would stay in the apartment above the firehouse.
How fun.
Now, there's a
Wait,
light...
is it a real firehouse?
I don't think so.
Oh. Why is it fake?
Madison.
I'm sorry.
I have dinner to eat.
I'm sorry. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just have so many questions. Tell me everything there is to know about Disney.
No, as a tribute to Walt Disney, a light is always left on in the firehouse, but there might actually be a supernatural reason for that. The reason being, a worker went in cleaning the apartment one day, and she turned the light off, and as the story goes, she went downstairs, looked up, and the light was on. So she went up, turned it off again, and then same thing happened where she went down and it was on again. So she went upstairs, turned it off, unplugged it, and then when she went down, it was still on. So she went up the last time to deal with it again, and she heard a voice say, "I'm still here."
Oh!
So now it stays on. I highly recommend looking up videos of Haunted Disney because there are actually a lot of, like, I don't know if they're fake or real, but there are a lot of really cool videos out there of just, like, supposed, like, Disney ghosts that I think are fun.
I'd still enjoy to watch them.
Yeah, check them out. I don't know if they're fake or not.
Also, that would definitely be me as a ghost. Just like, I'm still here. Leave the light on. I'm not going anywhere, bitch. thanks so much for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed these topics. If you have any topics that you would like us to cover, feel free to email us at myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out over social media, where you can find us on Instagram, Twitter. Okay, real quick before we go, I just wanted to say I'm really pissed at Twitter, not just because of the shit show that's happening right now, but the fact that there's a shit show happening right now and Twitter itself is in question. And that was the reason I was having such a hard time finding a handle for us to use. So, like, fuck Elon. This is fucking bullshit, okay? Yeah. I'm pissed. Twister. Oh my gosh. Twitter was the problem. Sorry. Yes, you can find us on Twitter. Make it worthwhile. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Feel free to like and subscribe. We're everywhere you find content. And have a happy Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving will be over by now. But we hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
I know I did.
Pass the cranberry sauce. We're having mashed potatoes. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for being there. Everyone's thinking, the whole world's thinking you. For thinking me.
The whole world's thinking you.
There were 2 Thanksgiving songs in this episode, which were more than most people get. Bye.
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 Bye.